Q4 2016. I can just select that. Crucian is still there, but you'll see that the lift score are different, and some of the other brands are different as well. So if a brand has very loyal followers, some of the affinities stick across different time periods. Otherwise, you will see a lot of difference as well. Now, while we were discussing, I added some affinities pages for LG as well. I just want to check whether the affinities are calculated or not. Otherwise, you would be able to find the affinities in the same way I am doing for LG as well. Just give me a minute. Let me check page. I added LG care. There you go. All right. So now we have the affinities for LGK Korea as well, and what you can see that people who are engaged with LGK Korea are engaged with Lipton Tea, Garuda Indonesia for some reason, and Blackberry and Sit-On Footwear Store, Kale's Korea, which is a skincare service. So in this way, you can, that's easy. That's how easy it is to, find an audience who is engaged with the brand that you want to identify.
The other aspect, Kim, is that as you start using affinities and you start tracking affinities, now you can even sort these affinities by category. And sometimes if you start looking at categories and you start saying, hey, my highest lift belongs to a certain category, then it's also a very good way to look at what your communication strategy or what your communication tone could be. Because, for example, if I took Kiehl's and I took the French brand Kim, the L'Occitane, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, L'Occitane.
Yeah, L'Occitane, yeah. So it's telling me that, hey, obviously, women are deeply engaged with this brand, makes sense. Then I really need to examine, if I'm doing male and female targeting. If I'm doing female targeting, do I need to have creatives which have a slightly different tone of voice? Because somehow I think the world is still quite chauvinistic. We think tech is male, but some of the smartest women are in technology, right? So I think that's where I think looking at affinities, even for looking to see what type of creative tone of voice I should be using, is something I think that I would encourage you all to play with, to look at all the time.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Kim, you had also mentioned to me this concept called social search, right?
Yeah.
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 Will I just touch upon that and just it's used for a slightly different reason, and just let me just go there for a sec. Okay. So this concept of social search is not something that I think you all would need to use because you're quite knowledgeable about the brand. You are quite knowledgeable about the objectives. You're quite knowledgeable about the customer behavior. So social search is something one would use when we are dealing with something which is kind of new or something which is unknown to us, right? So a case in point, I'll use this example because it's top of my mind. A client of ours called us up and said, hey, look, I'm going to be sponsoring a cycling event, right? Now, this is a bank sponsoring a cycling event. So they wanted to see what were options for targeting. So in such a case, what we do is simply go to social search, because let's assume that none of us know anything about cycling. So if I just go to social search and I say cycling, what 4C does, right, is that it starts looking at people's behavior within Facebook and also outside of Facebook. We are looking at how people consume Wiki, how people consume music databases, how people consume movie databases, and also what other media they're reading. And with this, what we immediately are able to give you is something which is also actionable. So at one single stroke, I can actually say that, hey, people engaged with cycling are deeply engaged with this brand called Eastern Cycling, US Cycling, Elliptigo. And a lot of this cycling related areas start coming out. And not only that, there is a description for it, right? This is fantastic because this saves you hours and hours and hours of research that somebody in your team is going to do, trying to figure out what do people who engage with cycling do. Now, in a situation, and why I mentioned this may not be so relevant for you, is that, for example, you pretty much know everything about your brand. But for example, if Google's one day suddenly decided to come up with, say, I'm going to sponsor something completely from a different space, then I would use something like this to immediately do a immediate understanding. And the way this is also exposed is that this itself is also targetable, right? Because these also, all of these media properties have Facebook pages, and therefore I can also target people. And I can therefore look at this overall database and then geo-target specifically for a country, right? So that's the way something like this, this is how social search is useful. It's different from affinities. It's extremely useful when you're researching a brand. Now, as Google is getting into personal health, into fitness, into so many newer areas, this is where this could actually be very, very useful, yeah? I'm just trying something because I've not done this before. I'll probably get a null on this, but yeah, so this was something I've been wanting to do. And now look at this one, yeah? I looked at artificial intelligence, okay? Because that's a hot topic from a technology point of view. It's telling me that people engaged with artificial intelligence are engaged with cricket, okay? Now, all right, that's kind of interesting. Reasonably low relevant score, but I mean, in the mix of all the scores is pretty good. They're also engaged with national intelligence, with a TV show called Intelligence, with Oracle Business Analytics, with Machine Intelligence Research Institute, with App Annie, Babylogy, I have no idea why, Helena Rubinstein, which is health and beauty. And therefore, this helps me going into these areas which all may touch technology. And therefore, I start getting a very good idea as to maybe what my next step should be. Or if nothing, at least I start getting a picture of what this type of a person is actually consuming today. So that's the beauty of social search, right? We normally use it more from research. We've rarely used it in activation, but it's a good tool to have in your armory.
I think one of the recent examples where I did use this in activation was that, I was running a campaign for a brand and we needed to target people in different countries who were engaged with photography. So all I did was that, I knew about I have an idea about Singapore and some markets, but like, for example, in Thailand, and I wanted to look at the local properties, right, which are in local language, etc. So I just typed photography Thailand, and then, I was thrown up with interest, which I could then straight away use, run affinities for it, and create an audience for the brand. So in cases where you want to go for different countries, you can use it this way as well. It does work for certain keywords and countries. So for example, here what I could see was that these people in Thailand were engaged with Demi, were engaged with Thailand, LinkedIn, popular photography, and others, and Thailand D. So I could get all these pages which I added to our affinity engine, and I started running affinities for that. I was able to create a very quickly an audience set for the brand.
Okay, so for the social source, there's no country overlay or region overlay like that for the affinities.
Yeah, but you can add the
you
country
can add
name
the
later.
country. Most times it's
As a keyword.
As a keyword, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, Kim, given the extent of technology space that Google as a brand occupies, right? I use artificial intelligence because recently Google's been making a lot of waves around that area. But Google has properties for photo sharing. Google Cloud is used for photo sharing as one big space. There would be other such technology words, right? Now, anytime you get thrown with something like that, please use social search, and it will start giving you these ideas. And exactly what Nish mentioned actually was a use case that a client was struggling with a campaign, asked us, and that's what